Who is Jesus of Nazareth? Jesus is a Son of God, not the Son of God. There is much confusion among man about God, the deities, and the heavenly hierarchy. Thousands of years ago, mankind was introduced to the divine trinity concept through supernatural revelation. It is difficult for a mortal to understand that there is only one true God who, in his wisdom on the divine level, has divided himself into three: the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. Everything that exists on any level comes from this supreme Godhead, and everything will return to him. He is the first source and center of everything. However, creation on the material levels happens through his Creator-Sons. Whenever God the Father and the Eternal Son jointly bring forth a new, original idea, this creative idea is at the same time perfected and finally personalized into the being and personality of a new Creator-Son. In spiritual nature, divine wisdom, and coordinative creative power, these Creator-Sons are equal to God the Father and God the Son. However, Creator-Sons are only able to govern that, to which they themselves have given existence. Such a unique Creator-Son was Jesus of Nazareth in the days when he was incarnate in his own creation. He is the Creator and King of the great universe in which your little planet Earth has found its place. Those unique sons of God have taken the task of revealing the God's Father heart to all creation, and vice versa. The Heavenly Father as a personality descends to you only through the work of his divine sons. Another Creator-Son whose name is known in man's collective consciousness is Emmanuel. He is an older Creator-Son than Jesus, and he too created a vast universe over which he rules. So, Jesus is the creator of a vast universe. To give you an idea of how this unfolded, we briefly recount its creation here. All time indications are expressed in years as they apply here on Earth. 987 billion years ago, a high angel reported, to the Ancient of Days, that conditions in the sector in which your universe now lies were beginning to become favorable to receive energy flows. 875 billion years ago, an Androno nebula was initiated in the sector. This is a swirl of energy that contracts in a vortex. 600 billion years ago, this nebula had reached its maximum masses. It had become a giant gas cloud. When astronomers from a neighboring universe observed it, they saw exactly the same as your astronomers see now when they point their telescopes into space and look at the current spiral nebulae in the neighboring space. 500 billion years ago, the first sun was born. A glowing string of gas-shaped matter detached itself from the gravity of the mother nebula and streamed out into space in search of its own place in the cosmos. The ever-increasing rotational velocity in the contracting masses hurled more and more stars into space, most of which ended up in independent orbits. The new universe was far from stable in these early days, and in the 400 billion years that followed, many young suns were sucked back into the nebula. Until the nebula reached its peak of condensation stress 100 billion years ago. The point of maximum heat stress was reached. Then it took another 94 billion years before the nebula let its power flow out for good, with the ejection of the last stars. Your sun also dates from this time, and is now over 6 billion years old. Back then she was a lonely solitary star without planets. But just as the universe took billions of years to form, so too did your own solar system take a few billion years to shape. 4.5 billion years ago, a huge solar system approached your sun, and its gravity eventually extracted gaseous material out the sun. This released energy eventually became the matter and the chemical building blocks of your solar system. Despite the fact that this huge solar system managed to pull matter from your sun, it failed to get any of this matter. The visiting system came just not close enough to actually steal any of the sun's substance. But it did come close enough that it pulled and distributed all the matter that now makes up the present solar system. The gas-shaped cores of the planets soon reached the stage of solidification and then themselves began to attract meteorites that circulated in neighboring space. 2.5 billion years ago, Earth had become a well-developed sphere with a masses about 1/10 of its present body, and rapidly increasing in size due to meteoritic accretion. 2 billion years ago, Earth's size began to outperform the Moon. She was then about 1/5 of her present size, and she had then become large enough to hold the primitive atmosphere that formed as the Earth's crust began to cool. 1.5 billion years ago, Earth had reached 2/3 of its present size, while the Moon was approaching its present masses. Earth's rapidly increasing size relative to the Moon enabled it to slowly erode away the little atmosphere that its tiny satellite originally possessed. 1 billion years ago is the time when Earth's history actually begins. Earth had now reached its present size. The solar system had become stable, and no more large meteor swarms were striking the Earth. And just as the universe took billions of years to become stable, and just as your solar system took a long time to find its balance, so too did your planet take many millions of years to become stable. Slowly the heavy metals sank to its core, leaving its masses well distributed. As the Earth's crust cooled, water vapor condensed, and over time an ocean covered the entire surface. The first continental landmasses emerged rising out of the world ocean, as a compensatory adjustment of equilibrium, in the gradually thickening Earth's crust. It is literally true that, the Earth was without form, and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. The great land masses tore apart, and the new continents drifted apart over a period of 500 million years. For most of this time, the continents were largely underwater, until roughly 170 million years ago when the land masses rose out of the water. Mainly because the seafloor imploded as the continents drifted away. A tranquil period dawned in which different patterns of life could develop well. Too often, the creation of the universe has been attributed to miraculous chance, but in all of this rested the wisdom of your Creator. From the infusion of energy, the contraction of the nebula, the many stars that escaped it, and the planets that formed, to all the life that went forth in this vast universe. All this was set in motion and happened under the approval of your Creator, whom you know here on earth by the name, Jesus of Nazareth. The entire universe created by him now contains more than 3 million inhabited worlds, and it has the potential to eventually produce more than 10 million. We recount all this not to increase your cosmological awareness, but to give you a glimpse of how awesome your Creator is. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall by no means.